Just moving on. So, I guess I always ask people what are their plans for the future. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Is that with the XP, not with the XP, is with the team? Is it just carrying what you're doing? Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Estate Agency Entrepreneurs. And today I'm joined by Andrea Ruffino. Good morning. Hello.
Good morning. I'm all good, thank you. Excited to be here.
Good stuff. Well, welcome to the show. And how's Hitchin? You travelled up from London?
Yes, it's been a good trip. It's nice and sunny today, finally. So it was good to get out of London. Very nice to be outside from a busy city. Sometimes you need a bit of air.
Yeah, exactly. Well, welcome. So we're going to talk about kind of your background, your history. You're at XP at the moment. Obviously, you've been a couple of other places, I think, prior to that. And then we're going to talk about kind of, I think, really important to get from you, because you're in central London, is lead gen in central London, because it's tough in London, right? So we'll come on to that as well later and how you've done that. But give us a bit of your background. Where did you start? What have you done in the past? What's your estate agency background as well?
So to start from before I was an estate agent, I studied sound engineering. I studied Sony Cards in London. A few years ago, in 2007, between 2007 and 2009, I got a BA, and then I opened my record label, electronic music, and I've been DJing a bit all over the world, Japan, Madrid, Berlin, and other places.
Wow. But we'll stop there. We can't just let you go. Who have you DJed with? Anyone we'd know?
Well, it was with my record label, so it was my shows. I'm not. My music is a bit experimental, so maybe you don't know the names and stuff. But because I had a record label, it was shows about the record label and the music I produce.
Okay, cool.
And I used to work also in concert as a sound engineer. Then, unfortunately, with music in London, because it's very expensive, it's starting to get overwhelming the way to find money. And at the same time, I was making an investment, and I bought my flat in Whitechapel, and I really enjoyed the process to go and buy the property. And I was seeing estate agents, and I was starting to get curious about what the actual estate agent job is. And then I started having this little passion about properties as well, and I thought it was maybe time to try something else. And so I started a job in real estate. I think my first experience wasn't the best, because I worked for a company that was letting rooms, and I really didn't like the way they were, managing things, and it was a bit dodgy, if you want to put it that way. So I joined after Remax, where I started my journey as a sales negotiator, salesperson in property, which was an experience. I've been there for a year, and it was very hard for me because firstly, I didn't know the regulations in UK because I'm Italian. Secondly, I didn't have experience in selling properties, so it was a long process of self-teaching myself and learning by my own mistakes, about pricing, about how to advertise a property online, and to be honest, that first year didn't go very well because of my lack of experience. And what I was finding a bit difficult with them as well was that I didn't have much support in terms of training. There was some, but it was very basic, and for someone that never made a sale or never interacted with buyers or vendors, it's very hard sometimes to convince people to take the right decision and go the right way. So I felt completely a bit lost, let's say.
So were you self-employed at Remax?
Yes, I was
business, self-employed.
Yeah, Remax is a bit different because you are 50-50 with the company, but you work under their brand. Right. So you are like an associate more than self-employed.
Right.
So then,
but you're eating what you kill. There's no salary. You are.
Yeah, exactly the same as more or less as EXP, but slightly different. Because I was getting passionate about the process, so I decided to join a high street agent. And I worked for like 6 months for King's Group, which is well-known company in
East.
Yeah.
Royden?
Yes.
Yeah. Shout to Royden.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, guys, aren't they? Hi Carl, hi Royden.
Yeah, it was a very good experience because I learned everything about selling. It was very hard because we were very long hours, but it was an awesome experience. But what it was bugging me a lot, it was the amount of money I was getting for selling a property and the basic salary. There was not the best, let's say. It was competitive for an estate agent, a high street agent, but I was thinking like, well, I was getting properties with the Remax, even without having all that knowledge, and I thought like, okay, but there must be a way to get more money, and be and have more time, because I don't want to have 1,000 properties and deal with 1,000 properties and then just sign the contract for the sake of signing it and have another property to put on the market, because it can get a bit of a waste of time sometimes, because maybe that you can't sell or it would take too long to sell. So I thought maybe I should look again into the self-employed model, and then so after around 6 months I left, and I joined the Remax again for a short period, and then I found about Keller Williams. Keller Williams was another great experience. I was the first agent for London Bridge office, and there again with the training that Keller Williams was providing, I learned more. I learned more techniques. There was some very capable agents doing the trainings, and I started actually creating a pipeline, which before with Remax it was almost impossible for me.
Okay.
So
interrupting
yeah.
there, because obviously I'm intrigued about the differences between the training, really, I suppose, because Keller Williams obviously talk about being a training company that happens to do real estate.
Yeah.
Kind of the phrase that I think I've heard, maybe not exactly that phrase verbatim, but how did you find it? I mean, apparently the training's unbelievable. I've not done it. I've not been there and done it, but apparently the training's unbelievable at Keller Williams. Is that something you would concur with?
Well, it is very good. I learned literally a lot of stuff that I would have never could never imagine myself, or even by having lots of experience. It's like little tricks when you use the wording. Also for me, sometimes I'm Italian, my English could be sometimes very basic when I speak about topics that I'm not used to. So learning like wording and improving also my English, and knowing how to approach a vendor without getting too emotional, it helped me a lot.
Because you Italians are pretty emotional, aren't you?
Yeah, we are. Unfortunately, sometimes, when something gets to our nerves, it's easy to...
Yeah.
But, it was very, very useful.
Did you think the training... So, and again, I don't want to be digging people out, but, did you think the training was appropriate for... Because there's certainly some techniques in there on how to build relationships and use your network and your community, I suppose. But what was there that helped you with actually estate agency, actually lead generation? Was there some good stuff in there? What was the best stuff you took away from that?
To be honest, I don't think there was about lead generation specifically. Maybe I wasn't at the training at the time, but I can't remember exactly. But it was more about how to approach people and talk to people than actually creating a pipeline and get more leads. Okay. I mean, sometimes it was very basic, like, oh, let's go door knocking. You should go door knocking. Okay, well, every agent does door knocking, and you should do it to lead gen, especially in difficult areas, and if you're starting a business. But for example, from EXP, I learned about letters. I never thought about it, and it's a bit different, And I think it was more focused on how to close a contract than how to find more contracts.
Right. Okay. Interesting. But I
don't know how it's changed. You know, it was a long time ago, so they might have changed it now.
But you started being successful there, right?
I mean, I sold a few properties. Then I made a big sale at the Principal Tower. I remember this guy inquired for an apartment for it was 1.2 million, and I ended up selling a 1.7 million because it was had an amazing view, and it was actually a better option for him as well. And that was the biggest sales I did with Keller Williams at the time. And then things started going a different way, and I was approached by another company, and then I decided to change because of some personal reason with the owner of the market center, and then after that period, I got approached by I think I came to the first event you did.
I think you did, yeah.
Yes, it was it was a
2019,
bit of an experience for various reasons, but I started getting intrigued because I got in contact by Hania, which is now my sponsor, and I started understanding a bit more how with EXP you can, of course you are an agent, but you can do a lot of more other things that are not just related about selling properties. And now it's been almost 10 years I've been doing this, and sometimes selling properties and dealing with private vendors can be very overwhelming because you need to manage their emotional state when they sell, and it can become very heavy, you know. Yeah. So with EXP, there is, for example, the revenue share that is a very good way to increase your income and have some passive income as well. That no other company has this way. I mean, Keller Williams has it set up, but it's much smaller and is not as well organized like EXP, for example.
And you've got the equity as well, of course. So,
exactly.
And without it becoming an EXP sales pitch, I don't know if you saw the post by a guy called Mark Buchanan yesterday on LinkedIn. His equity, his stock, shares, whatever you want to call it, which is the same thing, is currently £95,000.
Wow.
He's just been selling houses for the last 4.5 years with us, and he just built up, accumulated that. It's now £95,000. And even a week ago, when the share price was $12, it's now $14. That 95,000 was probably around 87, 88.
Yeah.
So he's made like $7 or $8 grand in whilst he's sleeping.
That's another. Yeah. And I decided that the EXP was for me when I had a chat with Richard Tomasini, and I spoke to him in person. Well, not in person physically, but through Zoom. He was telling me about the revenue share and the amount of agents and the way that he built his pipeline of agents. And I was like, well, maybe I don't want to sell properties for the rest of my life, you know. And this could be a very good opportunity to teach what I've learned the hard way, because I didn't have at the beginning someone to teach me, and maybe help someone, and at the same time be able to have a bit more free time for myself, or for my dreams, or for my projects, or whatever.
DJing.
Yeah, exactly.
So going back to let's talk about that. Let's talk about that lead gen, because I think for me, lead generation is the most important thing when you're going self-employed in any industry. If you're becoming a plumber, you need to generate clients, you need to generate leads who need their taps fixed or a bathroom fitted or whatever. So same for a estate agency. So how do you go about finding your leads? What's the magic formula for Andrea? So
for me, lately I've noticed that most of the business came was from past clients, obviously, so that I had from companies before. So for example, I became very good friend with Concord, and now they're always happy to give me new listings, or they always tell me a bit in advance if something.
Who's that, a developer?
Concord, yes.
Oh, okay.
Is a central London developer that has 3 developments at the moment in Marylebone, Great Portland Street, and one in Liverpool, next to Liverpool Street. But they always tell me a bit in advance, so I built a relationship in the past. And sometimes some past clients, referrals. I think these, especially at the beginning, this was the strongest way. But
going back, just again interrupting, and I apologise for keeping doing that. I just think it's really important for the listeners and the viewers to understand that. So building those relationships with a developer, don't give names or anything, but how do you just keep calling that developer until you get to the person who makes that decision?
With Principal Tower, it happened because with the Concord, it happened because I sold the property and they saw that I dealt with the case very very nicely, even if there was a little problem towards the end, I managed to keep everyone calm, everyone's calm, and make sure that transaction was going the right way. Then because I was invited to their events a few times, and I become friend with one of the...
So it's just befriending people, helping them?
Yeah, I'm Italian, so it's easy for me to become friends to people for some reason.
That's to do with the Barolo, isn't it?
Yeah, probably. So yeah, with the developer and for example, the last development that I got on board, they were actually, I spoke to one of the salesperson one day. It was phoning up developers trying to get new listings, and they said no, you can't market it. And after 1 month, the manager called me. And they said, we want you to market the property because we checked your LinkedIn and you're perfect, blah, blah, blah. And then I started a relationship with them, and now I'm friend, let's say, with them, and hopefully I'll get the next development.
And they checked your LinkedIn profile?
Yeah.
Important,
yeah.
Right? So important to keep your LinkedIn profile up to date.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that with developers is building relationships, show up when you need to show up. If you have properties on the market that you're dealing with, make sure that all the viewings are dealt super on point, super quick. The leads, when you receive leads, just pick up the phone straight away. Make sure that, especially when you have multi-agency agreements and you've got tons of other agents, so you need to stand out. When they see that you stand out, they will be more happy for you or for whoever to give the next development to you, or someone that doesn't pick up the phone or doesn't deal with the leads recently. If you can tell you a little story, for example, I've got a viewing tomorrow for this 3-bedroom apartment, and this gentleman who already contacted the developer 3 months ago, and they already went there, but because I built a relationship and I managed to deal with the inquiry very quickly, they were very happy to show it again from me, for example.
So it's a networking, turn up to events and good service.
A good service. You need to stand out to the other agents because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for someone that is able to deliver their product. It's not like selling a house, because they have a new product, and it's like selling a new product that nobody saw before. So it's a bit different than selling like a second-hand house.
Yeah. How do you find, just again touching this, kind of going off on a tangent, but new products as you call them? I think that's a really good way of looking at it, by the way, as a new product. How much of knowledge do you have to have about that new product in terms of the intricacies of tap fittings and all that kind of stuff? Are you fully immersed in every aspect of the build?
This is something that I really like to do, is go in and see developments when are not completed yet. So you wear all the PPE and stuff, and you go and look at the building. And then you understand as well how a house or a flat is done from ground to from ground up, you understand, and you understand as well something about the materials, for example, about appliances, about the space, about the light, that maybe when you see a property already completed, you see the final product, but you don't have the understanding or maybe of the topping of the kitchen, or the wood that is used for the floor, or the carpet, blah, blah, blah. And when you actually have the list, and then you have people that ask you also, well, what is the material they used, or what kind of marble is that, or because there is a lot of people that are investors that buy, for example, from internationally, from China, from South East Asia, blah blah blah, and they want to know, and maybe they don't even see the property, they can't come and see, so they just buy. So you need to be very specific on what they're gonna buy, because they don't see it.
And that attention to detail is really important. I was in Portugal viewing some houses. I was being a bit nosy back in April now, and the agents there, and they were taking me around all new builds. It was all new builds, and some were half built and some were, more or less finished. But all the agents knew intricately, the type of marble. Of course, there's only one type of marble, and that's Italian marble. But they knew.
There is a different one.
Oh right. well,
different locations.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no. Well, we won't get into that, but I'm sure there is. But they knew intricately the materials that were being used and just everything about it. It was very impressive, and I think we could learn a lot in the UK from that kind of, because I think the agents actually there are like that for second-hand homes as well. It's not just new properties, new products. It's like that and I wonder how many agents in the UK get into the detail of what sort of boiler it is, what sort of work surface it is, what sort of flooring it is, it's Carndine or whatever, all these different things that, whereas you get a lot of agents, I think, just go into the house and, you're on that McDonald's advert where they take this out of estate agents and they open the door, lounge and close the door again, that's it, for 99p, saver menu or whatever it is, but that's the kind. I think there's an element where we can learn a lot from both overseas and also new build developers and agents that like.
Well, I got intricated with new builds after I sold that the first unit I sold as a new build, and for the future I will try if I can, but the market is very competitive, new builds between agents, and there is the giants that obviously control the market, and they have and it's difficult to get listings sometimes, but I think it takes you out from situations which are, for example, the emotion of a vendor, and the stubbornness of a vendor, as we know. Don't want to offend anybody, but sometimes, and because they have prices already, made on price per square foot or size and stuff like that, or location in the building, then you don't have to think much about the value. Obviously, you need to think and give feedbacks about the offer you get, and sometimes the value that they think is not worth for the current market. But you have one side of the job that is already done for you. And then what you need to be good at is actually trying to find the right apartment for the right person, because the choice of new builds in London is incredible. I mean, there is so many, and the other thing that is different from selling one house is that when you get the right buyer and you know that they're gonna buy, is to show them as many opportunities they could like, and make sure they between these opportunities they are guided to select what they want.
Okay. So I'm going to come on to the other lead generation strategies in a minute, because I think you were going to talk about letters before I interrupted you 5 minutes ago. But before I do, how you mentioned international buyers. How do you attract those international buyers? Do you put adverts out, or do they just come to you? Or?
Yeah, that's through like, for example, one of the last property I sold, actually was the first property I sold with EXP. It came through another advert that I have, no, actually that one came through a referral of property I sold with the company before. And the lady was very happy with me, and she said, okay, I've got this lady, we showed one property, we sold it to her.
So she referred a buyer to you?
She referred me the buyer,
okay,
yes.
Cool. And then did you essentially pick a property for that buyer?
Yeah. I mean, she she said to me, this lady, she wants a 3-bedroom apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment, or was it 3? I can't remember. A 2-bedroom apartment maybe, with a parking in Marylebone. That's the only area she wants. And I picked all the things. Obviously, Marylebone is a very expensive area, so I had to find the only place that she could afford for her budget. And I found it through. Can I name the company?
Yeah, I guess so.
I work with the Knight Franks a lot and Savills because I became friends.
So you split the commission?
No, they have an introduction fee for every agent. I think that's how it works. So
this is intriguing, I think, for a lot of listeners, because this is not normal in Birmingham or Sheffield or Manchester or Exeter. These are unusual situations where you can actually introduce an international buyer that's only come to you, and that's normal overseas, right? It's normal overseas to have buyers. And again, when I went to Portugal, I'm the buyer, and so the agent showed me around lots of other properties that were listed by other estate agency businesses. So it's just interesting to hear that it does happen in London. Yeah,
I mean, new builds are bought mostly by international buyers. It's very small percentage of people that are English or based on the country that are buying, or if they're based on the country, maybe they are internationals already. But it is sometimes a struggle to find buyers. Fortunately, I have a few developments online, and I get leads. Well, as soon as I get leads, I'm not going to show only that specific property, but I try to, if they don't like it, I'll pass on the next ones. And because I built this good relationship with this giants company, I managed to get stock very quickly, and they're all happy to work with me as well, because I'm very efficient normally when it comes to that.
Interesting. Maybe we can scale that across the UK with the XP, but we'll see. Going back to, so I interrupted you about 5 minutes ago, 6 minutes ago. I think you were going to talk about letters. Is that right?
Yeah, I've been trying with letters to get. Because it's something that I think you managed to build a business on letters, so I've been very intrigued about it. And I've been trying when I joined EXP. I didn't have much success, to be honest. But I think it's because obviously every area is different. And I think Central London, the problem with Central London is that you have so many high street agents, so many agents of every kind, and I don't even have the property on the market, and I live in Central London, and I receive 2-3 letters a week from agents that want me to sell their property. You know what I mean? Yeah. So at one point you go and you just dump them in the bin. But it is something that should work if you find the right formula, I think. And I started recently to send out again letters. But it's been just a couple of weeks now, and I didn't have any feedback yet. Okay. I had few calls when I started, but I think the vendor wasn't too motivated, or the price was too high, so maybe I just dropped the lead. But I mean, it should work, and I think especially in Central London, the way that could work the best is to send the letters to off-market properties where you don't have yet that competition compared to what you have when properties are on the market already.
Yeah, I mean, I've like you say, I built a business on letters. I Country Properties around the corner here. We were the 4th largest estate agency in Hitchin, and started doing letters in 2001, and we became the biggest within a year and a half probably, and then Hatched, I built that on letters, and obviously EXP we've kind of built on letters, because I've not me, but I've been promoting how effective letters are. But I think Central London, there is so much competition that there's so many letters dropping through the letterbox, so it's just making those letters stand out with pink envelopes and black envelopes and whatever other coloured envelopes you can have with handwritten addresses. But even other agents are probably copying that as well now and cottoning onto that. Interesting about the properties that are not on the market, there's a few tools out there now from 20EA and Home Search and various others, I think, that are now identifying addresses that they think might come on the market at some point in the next 12 months.
I'm using on search. I didn't know about that. But
so I think they've got products like that, so it might be worth having a chat. And obviously anyone who's listening and watching this, go and talk to those guys, because they've got a predictive. Now I don't know how effective it is, and obviously those guys will sell you it because they're salespeople. That's what they're there to do, is to sell you the product. But I've heard some good stuff about it. I think the content of the letters is really important, and I was talking to somebody recently about targeting off-market properties that may be coming on the market based on the data points that 20EA come up with, for example, and they were saying that the letters are really important to have very detailed information about that specific property. So if it's, it's a 1920s property, arts and crafts home or whatever, then you would put in the letter, I've got a buyer looking for a 1920s arts and craft property just like yours, rather than I've got a buyer looking for a property like yours. You would go into a lot more detail about the history. You've done your research, you've personalised the letter, and if that person is thinking of selling, they're going, right, I'm calling Andrea on this because this guy knows his stuff. He's obviously got a buyer for my property. So there's some really interesting stuff coming out from a tech point of view in the UK.
Yeah, I think like as you said, finding the right formula for the letter will make sure that stand out, because when you have maybe in a month 10 letters, and maybe either you don't read any of them, or you pick one and you say, oh, okay, that's fine, and then because obviously it takes time to read 5-10 letters every time. So but I'm trying, and I'm trying to learn new ways, to make them work a bit more, because I think it's a very effective way. It's just to find the right
quickest way to get in front of people who need your service. Frankly, so
especially if you're lazy. No, I'm joking.
Keep chipping away. Just moving on. So I guess I always ask people, what are their plans for the future? Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Is that with EXP, not with EXP, is with the team? Is it just carrying what you're doing?
Yeah, so it's a good question. Well, as I said, I'm a DJ and I've got passion for music, and for personal reasons I had to stop for a while because of income and other reason, moving out from one home to the other. And that's something I want to get back to, because it makes me very happy, it keeps my mood up and stuff. So I think, as I said at the beginning, EXP, it could be the perfect and best way to create a long-standing business, strong business as well, and at the same time have more time to make music, or to release music, or to go play gigs and stuff like that. Because as I said as well, my goal for clients is not to take all the properties they can just to sake for taking them, but to have properties that can actually sell. So selecting the clients through the motivation and what their personal situation, or why they need to sell, etc. And because of the commission split with the EXP and the possibility of capping as well, I need to work less to make more money, if you understand what I mean. So instead of selling 100 properties to make a certain amount with an high street agents, you maybe sell one. And like, for example, last year I sold one property and I make the salary for probably one high street agent in one sale. And that give you more time. Obviously, at the beginning it's hard, because you need to find clientele and you need to get more properties on the market. And then the idea is to progress from actually selling to start maybe creating. I've got my company called Red Skylight, and maybe in the future it would be great to expand and create my own team. Not big team, but I have some more people, and instead of selling, I would be maybe coaching people, and teaching them the craft of the estate agents, and with teams that you implemented. This actually was one of the reasons why I joined the EXP, is because we had the conversation about teams at the beginning, and you were saying we are trying this and that, and now finally it's live. So for the future, that would be potentially something that I would go forward, with. But also, having more agents and having agents that can join me and I can teach them, even if they're not specifically in my team. I like to teach. I like to teach music. I like to teach. I like to not teach in the way I'll tell you what to do and you need to do it that way. But I like to tell my experiences, and what happened to me, And I think people can learn from that, and so for the future potentially move from selling to maybe giving some contacts to some new agents that are going to join, blah blah blah, and start the process of coaching people, so I can have more time for the music. That's
good. Some more time for music sounds good. One other question actually I've got for you, and this is just because I've just thought of this while you were talking. I don't know if you've done real estate in Italy at all, but what would you say the cultural differences are between mindsets from Italians to British? Is there a cultural difference?
Yes, it is. It's very different. So I never done an estate agency in Italy before, but I've been starting to think about it because you never know what happened in the future, and I've been going back and forward a lot more to my hometown. And with EXP there is the potential to, because EXP is in Italy as well, so I've been thinking potentially to open a team there as well, or to try to get some agents. And I actually went to see some properties in a region which is very touristically popular for the truffle wine, and there is a lot of holiday homes and villas and castles and stuff like that. So I went to snoop around a little bit, and it is very different the way I think. This is what I saw by talking also to agents, EXP agents, or in Italy, and Remax agents, and is that the way that things works here, and the way that you negotiate, it's different. In Italy, you wanna bargain. So what you need to do, this is what an agent actually told me, is to set a price and make sure that you have that price difference, that when you sell at the right price. So it's always putting the property a bit more expensive on the market. And then there's going to be for sure an Italian person. I want a deal, and then you start negotiating and you get the deal. In England, I think this strategy it doesn't work because one of the reasons is the market is very competitive, and in certain areas there's so many properties, and your property needs to stand out. So price is the most important thing, and you need to compete with maybe 10 similar properties. So the price needs to be the right price, or there are strategies I'm not going to go too much into, but with, for example, offers over, you can beat the competition very quickly, and even if you achieve higher prices. For example, in Italy, there you will never have a person that bids over a price.
Okay, right.
Never.
So the Italian price is always sky high, but you beat them down. In the UK, you price it correctly, and it might go up. So
because it's just a psychological thing for Italian. Why should I pay more if you put that price?
Right. Well, I'm going to Italy next week for my family holiday, so I might have to go and view some houses. I might have to view some castles actually.
Whereabouts?
I'm starting at the lakes up north and going to Venice, Como, Garda, Venice, then Florence and Rome, and down to Amalfi Coast, and we're flying over to Sardinia for 4 nights.
Oh, for Sardinia is beautiful.
19 days there, so but by the time this podcast comes out, that'll have been a distant memory. It'll be cold again in the UK because this will probably come out in September sometime. I'm filming this on the 18th of July. So Andrea, I often say, you would have heard me say this internally, but you can only build a great estate agency with great estate agents, and you are a great estate agent. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you very much.